Check, check. Are we alive? Are we live? Are we kicking? How's that sound? That should be good. Sweet. What is up? Welcome. Today I have a special guest, Roger Veer. Just kidding. No, we are reading top dev stories. Second week in a row. So I'm stoked about this. It was fun last time. So I have the lineup here. I'll get started in a minute, but I've got the lineup here of the stories. I'm just going to devs and filtering by posts, zap rank for the week. So these are all of the posts for the week, actually. But yeah, I mean, I see interesting stories fly when I comment on. I have a lot to say, and this is a good format for me to do that. I really have to sit down and focus to write a proper response that makes any sense. So figured we'd start reading through them and diving deep live. So did that for the first time last week. Went pretty well. And I think this week I'm gonna get through all the stories. And yeah, hopefully we'll start getting more and more activity on devs. But I love to see there's a lot of new devs posting, particularly this week. So that makes me very excited, encouraged as always. I love the new devs, the Plebdevs, of course. But yeah, how was your week? I just drove back in from Oklahoma City like literally an hour ago. So I'm a little tired, but you know, we're still kicking. I'm ready for the week. And I knew I wanted to push some code today, despite my long drive. So we'll do that later on after I go through the dev stories. I would like to implement Bitcoin Connect on Plebdevs platform. That should be pretty easy. Well, it's meant to be very easy, but we'll kind of give a quick overview of it as well. And I want to show zaps. I have zaps in right now, kind of a simple implementation of zaps, but I want to start showing them on the content and just get that little snippet working. And then we'll jump into Bitcoin Connect. So I think that'll be pretty cool. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's start right here from the top. By zap rank, we've got from South Korea, LN, how to prepare for a coding career. Cool. So he says, for the devs out there, what books, resources do you recommend to transition from a career in academia, so academia coding using Fortran and Python, to a career doing front-end, back-end, app development, etc.? Of course, hands-on contributions, FOSS development is a no-brainer, and SN Rewards makes this very enticing. If you haven't heard, if you are a fan of StackerNews, you can actually get awarded very quickly for taking on any of their open issues on their GitHub. So it's a really great way to get started. My very first open source contribution was to Albi, and it was for a very small bounty. I think it was like 40,000 sats, but it meant a lot to me at the time. You know, it was a big deal getting paid in Bitcoin to write code. That was the first time for me, and so, you know, this opportunity is out here for all of you trying to do the same. Okay, anyway, back to our post. Of course, hands-on contributions, FOSS development is a no-brainer, but as a more structured approach to get the right foundations is also important. I thought of asking a question here, rather to get insights from other Bitcoiners and Lightning Network developers. Sometime back, I was recommended a book by Koob, but not sure if it was this one or another one. Do you have any experience with this or similar books to prepare for coding interviews? Okay, what is this? Cracking the coding interview. Okay, yeah. This is probably South Korea LN. This is probably the book. This is probably the book he was talking about. I actually haven't read this book, but so much of what I learned when I was going through, I guess, the algorithm problem part of just getting ready for the technical interview. I watched a lot of videos and stuff like that, and everyone talks about this book and kind of uses this book as their framework, it seems like, to prepare for the technical interview. I'm going to drop this music down just a hair. Okay. So yes, that's definitely a good one. It's a big one. But I mean, I like, you know, I think it's good to get like a general overview of the framing of how you do a technical interview. But I think it's also good to just really start getting your hands dirty. So HackerRank, I know HackerRank is one that people use. And so like I would highly suggest, start with HackerRank easy problems and just focus on Python. Most companies, from my experience, will kind of be prepared or expect a lot of their interviewees to do technical problems in Python. Some people will do it in Java or C++ or JavaScript or something like that, but Python is a very common one there. So that's some specific thoughts right there, but I guess stepping back further, so how to prepare for a coding career. So this person, they have experience coding using Fortran and Python. Fortran, that's kind of crazy. Do people still code in Fortran? How old isn't that like a really, really old programming language? 1958, developed by IBM. That's a differentiator right there. I would put that on my portfolio. I think it wasn't Fortran, it was COBOL, was another super old language that was randomly very much in demand a few years back, because all of these legacy banks, they have like this terrible legacy code that's written in COBOL. I don't know if it's terrible. It might be good. I'm judging. I just think it's terrible because they're banks. But who knows? Maybe Fortran will come back around. But that's pretty cool. So our guy here has got some experience coding. So that's a big deal right there. It's like that's the hard 0 to 1 that most people don't make it past. Is just having a basic comfort with writing some code and solving some basic problems in some programming language. So the fact that you know Python, that's really good. It's a good language to stick to for focusing on algorithm problems. So going to HackerRank, over just general advice, going to HackerRank and YouTube and searching for people's opinions on this and some example problems. It's definitely important to know your data structures, or at least review that, like your basic data structures, when to use a dictionary, when to use a list, when to use a set. A very common theme I found in a lot of programming problems they give you is they'll give you a problem that sounds simple on the surface, and you'll get halfway through it, and you'll realize that you have to write a loop inside of a loop inside of a loop or something like that in order to solve the problem. And this is where usually the interviewer will tell you, like, can you make this a little more optimal, etc. And usually the answer often involves using a dictionary, using a hash map, and storing keys and values. So combining dictionaries with loops for solving problems anytime that you need to dig through data like 2 times over, that's just a really useful foundation to like lean on. And you'll see that in a lot of solutions to like these HackerRank problems that you run into. So that's just something simple I've kept in my head for a while. But yeah, man, I mean, there's so much to say about, how to prepare for a coding career. And really, I would say that like the technical interview isn't important in a sense. Like, that's not what you'll actually be doing on the job, what you do in the interview, though it's required to even get the job. But I think just building apps and especially apps that solve some kind of problem, unique problem that you care about, or some small niche unique problem for users, like that's one of the highest signal things you can do. Because most people don't do that, even if they're very skilled programmers. Very, very few people still end up solving some problem and actually delivering it to end users. So more than anything, I find and I hear that is the ultimate differentiator. So let's dive into some of the comments here. Whoa. So, okay, top comment. So Elements of Programming Interviews. This looks like another book. And in case you're just starting, it would be better to first go through cracking the coding interview. Okay, I'm not a coder, programmer, but asked it to my brother, and it's his suggestion. Nice. Okay, Bolin says code, just code, like a lot. How? Well, do projects, what projects, good tools, stupid ideas, fun things, etc. Just code. Personally, I did my personal website, my band's website, a shitty social media thing, another shitty social media, rock, paper, scissors, MMORPG, which constantly broke because I tried to write all the multiplayer things in Scratch from C++. Another shitty website, a program to help me write blog posts. Yeah. Okay, so this is essentially what I was saying. Like, this is a really good path right here, is just trying a lot of things, a lot of projects, especially if they're things that you're just personally interested in. It's something that you'll actually finish. That's a really good thing. He says, and then I also did a little bit of competitive programming and things like Advent of Code, Coding Game. I used to use Coding Game back in the day. I forgot about that one. Along with, it's similar to Hacker Rank, but it's kind of gamified a little bit more. Catus and a million other types of things, yeah. Plus, I did join different hackathons like game jams, etc. I really recommend going to these things because of how it is fun and networking. Then you can read some books. I highly recommend Clean Code. Sweet. Learn to write clean code, learn to write tests, learn to write simple make files to run maintenance things. Just code like a lot, and most importantly, have fun. Nice, that's good advice. My favorite book of the hundreds I've ever read throughout my coding career was The Pragmatic Programmer, From Journeyman to Master. I searched on it just now and was shocked at the price of it on Amazon. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of these books, a lot of programming books are extremely expensive. I also just learned now that I'm in love with the first edition. I never knew they had a second edition until now. Having said that, I cannot recommend the second edition since I've never read it. Okay. Practice is huge. Just build stuff. Doesn't have to be novel. Practice is key. You learn common pitfalls, issues, and solutions. That is very true. I mean, it is trite to say, but it is, at some point you need to make the to-do list app, right? At some point you need to go through that experience, and maybe you use the to-do list app as an example app to learn new libraries, new techniques. Like I did this when I was learning some advanced state management with React. I was learning Redux. I just built a do app, but I used Redux in it. But yeah, it's a good comment there. So impacts of no code / low code tech on coding careers. Okay, someone's just throwing a question in here. That's an interesting question. I don't know about that. I don't know either, but no code, low code is also being pushed out there to solve talent's shortage. Yeah, I can't speak too much on no code, but generally, no code to me kind of feels like you're still outsourcing your tech in essence, or whatever you're building, a website, a platform, a web store. You're kind of still outsourcing it, but you're also responsible for it at the same time. And a lot of these no-code tools, they still charge you, or these no-code frameworks, you're still paying for them. And in a lot of those situations, it's like if you don't understand the tech stack and you're already paying for it, you should maybe just get a Square site or something like that. Because the real advantage is to, I guess, building your own website, building your own infrastructure, is that, you have control, it's free, and hopefully you can change it and update it as you please. But okay, so cool post from South Korea, Ellen. Good luck on your journey, and yeah, definitely keep posting and updating us on how it goes, and reach out to me if I can help ever. I don't know Fortran though, so I can't help you with your Fortran problems. Okay, this is one from me. I don't know, did I post that much this week? I think I just posted twice. This is a cool one. I won't spend too much time on my stories here, but I'm a bit of a gamer, so I like to keep up with a lot of the dev tools and stuff like that in the game world. And I saw this video recently. I used to keep track with like a lot of the Unreal Engine updates, but I haven't in a little while. And this one in particular like really blew me away.
Yesterday, Epic Games hosted.
Ooh, I'm gonna mute that. Essentially, it shows off some of the new features they have, which let's go into. Yeah, so they have procedural content generation is really, really amazing here. And so this is all built into the Unreal Engine like dev platform. I guess you would call it a dev tool platform, like an IDE for games. But this goes far beyond any kind of dev tool that I've ever used. I mean, the amount of built-in content. So like, this is an example where he has like a randomly generated little oasis, and he's able to manipulate it, stretch it out. And it's not just like a carbon copy of like all of these trees or anything like that. And this is just like built into the Unreal Engine. So this is something really cool. Procedural content generation. What was I gonna say? I've heard that if you build and release a game that's like built with Unreal Engine, I've heard that they actually take a portion of your money. You have to like pay them. It's not just like you buy the license, like you buy Photoshop and you're good to go. Let me confirm that. Let's see what I would say. How much does Epic take from Unreal Engine games? Unreal Engine is free to download and use, and developers were not required to pay upfront costs. Instead, Epic Game charges a 5% royalty on gross revenue after the first $1 million in revenue per game or application. Yeah, like, I guess that's not terrible. I mean, yeah, I mean, you take the perspective of like someone that's an indie dev that, you know, it's very unlikely that they would be able to build like a high quality kind of AAA looking game or even AA looking game. So I mean, for those type of people, I can imagine the trade-off is worth it, because it's like, hey, if I get to $1 million, you know, I'm stoked on that. Like, but that is a huge cost. I know that there was some slightly bigger studios that were building on Unreal, and they kind of just pulled that on them, and it was a bit of a rug pull, because it's like, oh, we've spent all this time building our game on your platform, and now, you know, you're going to take 5% of our profits after $1 million. It's kind of ridiculous. This was another thing they're showing off, dynamic animations. It's really cool. So I think this is just for like humanoid, whatever, avatars. But it basically has like an automatic, like it links the animations together kind of dynamically in real time. What does it say here? I just want to read these numbers. Dense data set. So I guess this is on the left is, yeah, this is like how you do it the old way. So animations 371 frames, 24,635, 25 megabytes. You see the comparison here. So yeah, that's really, really impressive. The other thing, oh yeah, they're talking about Fortnite. The other thing was nanites. That was released before. Okay, yeah, here's like showing a little bit about nanites at the beginning. It's basically, let's see. They're basically taking textures, and it seems like with some kind of machine learning, they're able to like pop out the distinct objects of the texture. So like here, yeah, this is an example of like nanites off and nanites back on. And it's getting really crazy, like these ground scenes they're able to generate. Like that's like the plain texture. And they show the polygon count here, and then they add in the nanites, right? And it adds this 3D element here. And they're adding in snow. Looks amazing. And I think they're going to show the polygons again. That looks crazy. Yeah, yeah, now you can see that polygon count. That's ridiculous. Yeah, so this, it seems to work kind of like a LOD, like level of detail, sort of. Like it renders at higher detail as you're closer. But I honestly have no idea. But really, I was just looking this, you know, it was a bunch of eye candy for me, so it was a fun story. But yeah, any game devs out there? I've never built a game. I built Conway's Game of Life. I don't know if that counts. Okay, cool, onward. So Python, so you want to learn how to code. Links I've collected over the years. Link thread here, sweet. So this is from Expatriotic. Greetings, I've wanted to learn how to code, Python specifically, for a while. Here's the result of that. Enjoy my bookmarks dump. Nice. Got 21 links here. Okay, I see you. Man, cool mobile phone app called Mimo. What is this? Learn to code with Mimo. Okay. Python docs, Python Central, learn Python. Nice. Something else I would throw in here. I wonder if anyone mentions Replit. Look at that. Okay, perfect. Yes, Replit is amazing. Yeah, I actually like Replit just for, I mean, If you're starting out learning Python, one of the hardest things is the dev environment. It can be simple, it can be straightforward sometimes, but it can also just be a nightmare where you write print hello world, and you're trying to run it for the first time, and you can't, you know, like you need to know the path to your Python, what do they call it? Like distribution, basically where your local Python files are stored. And you have to add it to your path and stuff like that. So that's usually the trouble people have. And Replit just, fixes that. You just open a new REPL and you instantly are writing and running Python. So that's pretty nice. But very cool list here. This is one that people can bookmark and come back to. Let's see what people say. So great resources. I need a similar guide for Rust in the coming months. Which of those links would you start with if you want to hit the ground running? I'm a little embarrassed because it's been a pinning project for years, hence I've only collected the links. I've got none through them systematically. Having said that, I'd probably start with number 8 and 9. CS50 2024 lectures. CS50 Harvard. Yeah, I used to listen to some of these lectures when I was a delivery boy. I was learning how to code, just trying to absorb it. Yeah, I mean, I relate a lot to. So when I was first learning how to code, I started with Python, as a lot of people do. I think Python in a lot of ways is one of the easiest programming languages to kind of pick up and even just look at the first time. You can kind of just look at it and sort of be like, okay, I see what it's saying. But I just found I tried to learn Python. I would put it down. I would give up. I would get 20% into a course. I'd put it down. I'd give up. And at the time, I just thought I was a complete idiot, which maybe I was a little bit. But now in hindsight, I'm kind of critical as I go back to a lot of the courses and the materials that I was using. I'm kind of critical of them because of the approach that they had. Like my very first Python course, it was essentially like, I'm going to show you all of the syntax in Python, all of it, in order from least to most complex, right? So you start with print hello world, and then, maybe you go into operators, and maybe you go into data structure. And it's like, okay, a lot of programming courses will start out like that, but there was no rhyme or reason to it. It was just showing me a bunch of syntax, and then I was putting down these syntax examples, and nothing was sticking. And I really don't like that format. I like the format of learn just as much as you need, 2 or 3 concepts, and then build something with it. Build something that makes sense, or that you can do sense making about. And that's kind of like how I like to break things up. Not that my approach is perfect, but it's just what has worked for me. 2 or 3 concepts at a time, build something with it, put that example down, push it to GitHub, and it's there forever, and you can always go back and reference it if you forget it. And that was also one of my, missteps. I thought I needed to memorize all the syntax. And it's like, really, I just needed to get the experience and get a bunch of projects and examples down in my GitHub that I could return to anytime I need to do that thing again. But that was just my experience learning Python. I know some people pick it up in 2 days. So definitely different for everyone. Bookmark, let's go. This list is great. 2 other resources I found helpful in my career early on were Automate the Boring Stuff. This is a great book. This is a perfect example of just a book full of really inspiring, really cool sounding projects that will kind of push you into new territories as a Python developer. It's probably more of an intermediate book, but definitely one to keep around and to look at the projects and have some ambition for the projects you want to build out of it. We actually have that book in the lab here. And what is this? pbpython.com. Practical Business Python. Ooh, this looks dense. Is this just someone's blog? Taking care of business one Python script at a time. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, Python scripting as well. That's a good way to get started. And that's some of Automate the Boring Stuff. It's just like, write a script to automate something on your computer, just something simple. And it's actually a really cool feeling, writing your first scripts and making things happen in your local machine. Funny story, I actually, my very first Python script I wrote, it was called Node Modules Annihilator, I think is what I called it. And my goal was I had a bunch of these web projects on my local machine that all had like node modules. And if you don't know, node modules is just kind of like the packages that you download to run a particular project. And you can always re-download them from a configuration. So there's no need to store them locally, but you kind of pull it down to run it. So my computer was full of all of these node modules that were taking up gigabytes. And I was like, hey, I'm going to write a script and I'm going to crawl through all of my files and I'm going to look for any folders named node modules and I'll delete those folders. And so I kind of wrote the script, a few iterations, it was going good. And I just decided like, okay, it looks good, I'm going to do a blind run of it. And I ran the script and I made a small mistake. Instead of deleting the node modules, it deleted the parent folder of the node modules. So that was my first Python script. It deleted literally all of my code projects off my computer. But that's why it's good to push to GitHub, luckily, because I had all my stuff backed up. But yeah, don't make that same mistake. It can be devastating. But sweet, good post. Thank you for sharing, Patriotic. And man, good luck on your continued dev journey. Definitely hit me up if I can help. Okay, jumping back down. So we are under DDoS attack and we do nothing. Okay. Let's check this out. So this is a link post, table plus. Okay, sweet. Let's dive into this. So we're under DDoS attack. For those that don't know, DDoS stands for Distributed Denial of Service, basically spamming, writing a for loop. Okay, someone has been attempting to DDoS us for weeks. Okay, who is this? Table Plus. This is a database management system. Interesting. Is it hosted? Native, lightweight. No, that's an app. Okay, let's keep reading. Someone has been attempting to DDoS us for weeks now. They have flooded our server with hundreds of millions of requests and attempted to download our setup file millions of times. Ooh, so they're just hosting just a setup file, and it looks like that's the endpoint they're hitting. In the last 5 days alone, they tried to download it more than 800K times. Our setup file is approximately 200 megabytes per download. That's expensive. Most of the traffic came from EU, specifically Germany and United Kingdom. Here is the recently API call within 30 days. Not includes download request and CDN traffic. Wow, so they have, 39 million from Germany, 46 million from United Kingdom. 4.38 terabytes? Good Lord, that's an Ethereum node. 3.42 terabytes. They've attempted to download the setup file millions of times in the last 5 days. The attack is still ongoing as we write this blog post. Okay, let's keep going. What do we do in this hot situation? We do nothing except watching them DDoS. We haven't blocked any attacker IP addresses. Although we use Cloudflare, we haven't activated under attack mode. Our server CPUs are almost idle, typically 0 to 1%. In general, we barely do nothing. Why? Because our services are capable of handling billions of requests per month without any issues and isn't much cost. We have around 8 API services and its databases, all capable of handling billions of requests per month without caching, and we have unlimited bandwidth with Cloudflare. Okay, this is turning into a sales pitch very quickly. How our Table Plus apps design are simple, and this philosophy extends to our backend services where we keep things as minimal as possible. We avoid using third-party services like Vercel or Netlify for rendering, as they become bottlenecks and surprise you with bills during attacks. This is very true. AWS can very much cause this problem as well, which these are kind of just front ends for AWS. Instead, we use our web servers, which have no limitations. In the past, the monolith was a bottleneck due to weak VPS/processors. However, with today's powerful VPS, so virtual private server, multi-core processors, high RAM, and fast SSD, a monolith service can handle billions of requests per month in a single instance if implemented correctly. Thus, we build a monolith service for each app, which is easy to deploy and maintain. No Docker, no Kubernetes, no dependencies, no runtime environment. Just a binary file that can be deployed on any newly created VPS. That's pretty cool. So let's talk about the monolith. Okay, everyone tends to overcomplicate things, which is an issue until you face pressure limitations. We heat complexity, I don't know what that means, so we opt for the monolith. We consolidate everything an app needs into a single service, API, website, email, payment. Everything in one service. Okay, so I guess that's like the opposite of atomization. Deployment is straightforward, just one configuration file, build and deploy. Are they using Nix? Is this going to turn into a Nix pill? I'm getting excited. Fewer dependencies make it easier to debug and identify bottlenecks. Where there's an error, you don't need to check as much. There's only one single service or just a few of them. Okay, monolith frameworks you can choose from include Golang, Echo, Gin, PHP, Laravel, Ruby, Rails, Rust. When done right, a single web framework of Go or Rust can handle billions of requests per month. So I talk about choose a high-performance framework, Golang or Rust, indexing your database, separate the main database, use reverse proxy to handle and distribute requests to your core API. Put everything behind Cloudflare and configure it properly. Use a CDN that has DDoS protection. Don't put any big downloadable files in your VPS without a CDN or caching, because it'll quickly burn your bandwidth. Protect your mailer. Interesting. So it's just the single Go and Rust API service. What did they say they included in here? We consolidate everything an app needs into a single service, API, website, email, payment. Wow. Deployment, we use binaries. We choose Go and Rust because they're high performance languages. Can generate binary files for deployment. Update, Vercel reached out. They want us to clarify that we now have protection for DDoS. Okay, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Nice meme, nice meme. Good sales shill. I mean, you know, I like to see stuff like this. There was a talk from, who was it? What's his name? Jan from Swan at Bitcoin Plus Plus like 2 years ago, and he was talking about their approach to doing basically JSON web tokens, or a replacement for JSON web tokens. They basically have a scheme that's similar to JSON web tokens, but uses a more simple kind of public-private key approach. And that was a cool workshop for me to see. Like, I think it's cool if, especially us in the Bitcoin space, if we can share these kind of, you know, this isn't necessarily something Bitcoin specific, but just share these kinds of stories, these kinds of templates for creating more, I guess, resistant architecture, you know, and infrastructure and software that's resistant to, especially DDoS attacks and spam attacks, but all different kinds of attacks as well. I mean, we've seen a ton of attacks this week. There's probably going to be another story about that coming up. It's interesting too here because this was a good clickbait title, I'm not going to lie, but you just wonder how much the spammers are paying here. They mentioned we haven't blocked any attacker IP addresses, so that makes it a lot cheaper, because normally if you're going to do a DDoS attack, you're going to have machines, you're going to have, what do they call it? Something like a botnet. Basically multiple machines that are going to be changing IP addresses and basically trying to look like different machines as they make requests. But of course that's quite expensive because you're spinning up a bunch of servers, spinning them down, spinning them back up. So, you know, what is the payoff for a DDoS unless it gives you some kind of access for some profit yourself? You know, well, people have their reasons and states definitely have their reasons. But this is a very cool approach. I would definitely like to hear someone with more enterprise backend experience speak to this setup. but very cool. All right, onward. Reading top dev stories. This was just my post from last week, doing the first one of these. Plebdevs live coding deep dive on Hedgehog protocol. We did that last week. Shout out to the Wild Hustle for posting this. Oh, and I need to zap. I'm not zapping these guys. Need some zaps. Sweet. Okay, how to embed a tweet in its original form while posting a link. I don't know what that means. I was posting an article link, and I wanted to post a tweet and options under context. Well, everything was good except the Twitter link I posted. Oh, okay, I see. So this is just StackerNews thing. Who's supposed to fix this? Am I supposed to fix this? I probably could. Yeah, so it's just how Markdown works. They shouldn't change it. Instead, it's allowing original tweet format insertion in the post context. Okay, we'll have to return to this. This is just a bug report. But thank you for posting in devs. This should be the right place. Okay, devs who can't code. Number 2, build a Bitcoin price tracker from the Wild Hustle. Oh, this is, what's his name? Oh, I already clicked on this before. Guy Swan. So devs who can't code, price tracker. Welcome to the second episode of Devs Who Can't Code. In this series, myself and Hope TS will together embark on a mission to prove that you don't need to be a coding wizard to build apps. Now with the boundless capabilities of artificial intelligence, anyone can be a developer. Join us as we explore the tools and techniques that enable us to design, develop, and deploy apps without traditional coding skills using AI-powered development. Okay, so this is cool.
I don't even.
Let me see. It gives me.
I don't even consider using AI to do CSS, but it gave pretty good results.
That's one of the first
last
things
time.
I've used it for.
Yeah.
I think Hope here, myself and Hope TS, does that stand for TypeScript? I think he's a dev here. So this is actually a really cool format because you have someone that's, I mean, not non-technical, but a non-developer with a developer with ChatGPT. And it's like, let's build an app together. So I think that's a pretty cool format. I am a little, I have feelings about, you know, I guess some of the sentiment around like, you don't need the traditional developer skills now to build apps with AI. Like there is a lot of truth in that, but there's something in a sense dishonest about it because like, yeah, you can play around and build a toy app that you hardly understand with AI tools and probably beyond that nowadays. But all of the benefit that you want from writing code, almost all of it will come from understanding it. And I would prefer people use AI as a way to help them accelerate their understanding, right? Or to identify areas where they have information gaps and use ChatGPT to fill in those gaps. Like, I think that's what's really powerful about ChatGPT, especially given like the quality of code that it still produces. You know, if you start in a new chat with ChatGPT and you're like, you know, make me a to-do app, let's start with the main page. Okay, now let's do this page. Okay, now let's do that. Like, as you go further on into that conversation and into building out the app, it's going to produce more and more flaws and more small bugs as time goes on. And this is like, when I use ChatGPT or any LLM, I keep the context window as short as possible and as narrow and kind of atomic and basically just singling out one problem. And so you have to be very careful with how you're prompting, or you're just going to end up with a lot of code that kind of doesn't work, and then you don't understand how to fix it. But nonetheless, I think their format here is really cool, and I definitely want to, I'll definitely poke through this a bit more. But shout out to Guy Swan. Shout out to the no-code devs and the AI code devs, I suppose. Okay, sweet. Okay, final story here. GitHub developers hit in complex supply chain cyber attack. All right. So the attacker employed various techniques, including distributing malicious dependencies via a fake Python infrastructure linked to GitHub projects. Let's check it out. Darkreading.com. That's a good domain. Oops. Oh my gosh. Okay. An unidentified group of threat actors orchestrated a sophisticated supply chain cyber attack on the members of top.gg GitHub organization, as well as individual developers, in order to inject malicious code into the code ecosystem. What is top.gg? Sounds like esports something. Explore millions of Discord bots. Okay. The attackers infiltrated trusted software development elements to compromise developers. They hijacked GitHub accounts with stolen cookies, contributed malicious code via verified commits, established a counterfeit Python mirror, and released tainted packages on the PyPy registry. Would this be considered a supply chain attack? Well, they're saying supply chain cyber attack. But what does that mean? I'm used to thinking of like a supply chain attack being like in the Bitcoin context of like you order a hardware wallet and someone in the middle between the delivery, like, you know, someone in the supply chain. Supply chain attack is a type of cyber attack that targets trusted third-party vendor to the supply chain. Okay, I see. So this is the same kind of idea. You've got the product passing between intermediaries and you try and get in the middle of that process. Okay, so they hijacked the GitHub accounts. So the developers of these Python packages contributed malicious code, established a counterfeit Python mirror, that's scary, and released tainted packages in the PyPy registry. So multiple TTPs, I don't know what that stands for. Help attackers create sophisticated attacks, evade detection, increase the chances of successful exploitation, and complicate defense efforts. The attackers utilized a convincing typo squatting technique with a fake Python mirror domain, resembling the official one to deceive users. Okay. Typo squatting. By tampering with, so they basically made like they bought a domain that looks very similar to the official domain. Like if you just look at it at a second, at a quick glance, you won't be able to tell that there's like a 1 in there or something. Yo, thank you. No problem. Thanks for watching. Later. Yeah, so that's that's very deceiving. I see that, you see that a lot in like spam emails. It'll be like, oh, your Amazon order is like whatever detained, and then you look at the domain and it's like Amazon with a 0 or something. Okay, with by tampering with popular Python packages like Colorama, which is used by more than 150 million users. Damn. To simplify the process of formatting text, the attackers concealed malicious code within seemingly legitimate software, expanding their reach beyond GitHub repositories. They also exploited higher reputation GitHub top.gg accounts to insert malicious commits and increase the credibility of their actions. Top.gg has 170,000 members. Wow. So I guess I guess in this context, like people are submitting their Python bots to Top.gg. Data theft. In the final stage of the attack, the malware used by the threat group steals sensitive information from the victim. It can target popular user platforms, web browsers, Opera, Chrome, Edge, by targeting cookies, autofill data, and credentials. Yeah, cookies are such a good way to pwn people. There's been a lot of discussions around Plebdevs of like potential attacks just within, and for me, I'm thinking of new attacks all the time in the web ecosystem. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit, and you kind of just don't even want to say it out loud, so no one does it. But yeah, I mean, there's so much attack surface in the developer landscape, especially for these more I guess higher level languages like Python and JavaScript, where we are relying on hundreds of dependencies for every project, right? You can never possibly keep track of all the potential vulnerabilities or exploits that go into the hundreds of packages you use in your JavaScript app and your Python app. And so, this is just somewhere where like you want the Bitcoin software, the Bitcoin companies, apps to have a low time preference approach on this. Like obviously, you build your MVP. Maybe it's just a basic web app or something like that. But as we continue, we need to reduce our attack surface. And they call them dependencies for a reason. You're dependent on them. Let's see if there's anything else in here. The malware can steal victims' cryptocurrency wallets, not mine. Telegram session data and Instagram profile information. I can already get your Instagram profile information. In the latter scenario, the attacker uses the victim's session tokens to retrieve their account details, employing a keylogger to capture keystrokes, potentially compromising passwords and messages. Stolen data of these individuals' taxes and exfiltrated to the attacker's server using various techniques, including anonymous file sharing services and HTTP requests. Yeah, this is one reason that I like to use ngrok a lot, and it's just a way to take a local host and make it globally available. And it used to be it's open source software, and you used to be able to just kind of download it and run it on your machine and use the service. But people kept on using it for these kinds of attacks because you can just basically spin up a brand new server with an IP address with a single command. And so people could easily build these scripts that would spin up, hundreds of ngrok servers, and their personal information wouldn't be attached to ngrok. So now, sadly, ngrok, you have to create an account and log in before you even download the software. Well, of course, the software is open source, so you can go get it yourself. But I think to access their server, their service, so unless you're self-hosting the ngrok on the server side, they require an authentication token. But, okay. I know there was some more attacks this week, some bigger ones, but they didn't end up on devs this week, so I guess we'll see the updates in the coming weeks potentially. But sweet, okay, that was somewhat fast. What are we at? 50 minutes in. Wow. Okay. Cool. Well, we knocked out a good 8-9 stories there. Yeah, so definitely shout out to all of you all that are learning how to code right now or just improving your coding skills. South Korea LN, Expatriate, The Wild Hustle. I see you all out here. It's very cool. Keep sharing. You're definitely not alone. For those of you talking out loud about your journey, there's 100 other plebs that are on their dev journey, and they're lurking, and they're maybe scared to share, but you should share, build in public, share your journey. People will help you, they will like you, and in general, it will just help accelerate things. So definitely encourage that. So thanks to y'all for posting, and just thanks for all the devs on StackerNews here.